The maid's hand is still trembling, not from weakness, from what she just did. She's standing in the middle of a penthouse living room, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, a chandelier hanging above her that costs more than everything she's ever owned, combined. Her name is Ruth Okonkwo. She's 27 years old, Nigerian, and 3 seconds ago, she committed career suicide. The woman on the floor is Yoon Sarah, Billionaire's fiancée, lifestyle brand owner, Instagram influencer with 2 million followers. Her hand is pressed against her cheek, where Ruth's palm just landed. Her designer dress is crumpled beneath her. Her hair is fanned out across the marble like she's posing for a photo shoot she didn't consent to. But her eyes aren't showing pain. They're showing something far more dangerous. Disbelief, outrage, the absolute shock of a woman who has never been touched by someone she considers beneath her. Ruth is breathing hard, her chest rising and falling, her right hand still clenched from the hit she just threw. She's terrified, but not of the woman on the floor, not of the consequences coming her way. She's terrified of herself, of what she just did, of the line she crossed that doesn't have a crossing back. Behind Ruth, there's a wheelchair, and in that wheelchair sits a 71-year-old Korean woman. Her name is Kang Yoonji, former professor, sharp mind, sharper tongue, but right now, she's silent. Her glasses are on the floor 3 feet away from her. The left lens is cracked, and on her left cheek, there's a handprint, red, fresh, the kind of mark that doesn't come from a fall or a bump, the kind of mark that comes from a deliberate slap across an elderly woman's face. The door opens. A man walks in, tall, expensive suit, tie loosened from a long day. His name is Kang Jun. He's the billionaire. He's the son. He's the fiancé. And he just walked into a scene that doesn't make sense. His fiancée is on the floor crying. His maid is standing over her. His mother is in a wheelchair with a handprint on her face. 3 people, 3 stories, 10 seconds to decide which one is true. And here's the thing that makes this moment so impossibly complicated. Everyone in this room has a version of events. Everyone has a truth they want him to believe. But only one of those truths is actually true. So, how did we get here? How did a maid from Lagos end up standing in a Seoul penthouse with a stinging palm and a ruined future? How did a 71-year-old professor end up with a handprint on her face? And how did a woman with 2 million Instagram followers end up on a marble floor with her mask finally cracked? Let me take you back 4 months to the day Ruth Okonkwo arrived at this penthouse with 1 suitcase, a work visa, and the memory of her grandmother's last words echoing in her ears. But before we go there, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever witnessed injustice and felt your blood boil, if you've ever wanted to stand up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves, if you've ever known that doing the right thing might cost you everything, then hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is about to take you places you won't expect. And trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. 4 months earlier, Ruth Okonkwo stands at the service entrance of a penthouse in Gangnam, 27 years old, Nigerian, wearing the only formal outfit she owns, a navy blouse that she ironed on the floor of her guesthouse room that morning because there was no ironing board, black pants she bought secondhand from a market in Ikea, shoes that she polished with petroleum jelly because she couldn't afford actual shoe polish. She has 1 suitcase, a work visa that took 8 months to process, and a heart full of memories she's trying to honor. The elevator doors open, and Ruth sees more marble than she's seen in her entire life. White floors so polished she can see her reflection. Floor-to-ceiling windows that frame the Seoul skyline like it's a painting commissioned specifically for this apartment. A chandelier hanging in the foyer that probably has a name, a designer, a history, a price tag with more zeros than her annual salary. The penthouse takes up the entire 43rd floor. Ruth does the math in her head. 43 floors above a city of 10 million people. And one family owns all of it. A woman appears, Mrs. Park, the head housekeeper, 58 years old, efficient in a way that suggests she's been doing this job for decades. Not warm, not cold, just precise. Follow me. She leads Ruth down a corridor, the East Corridor, past doors that stay closed, Past artwork that Ruth doesn't recognize, but knows must be expensive. Past a silence so thick, it feels like the apartment is holding its breath. Mrs. Park stops at a door. Her voice drops slightly. Not quite a whisper, but close. Madame Kang, she's in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down. Car accident 3 years ago. She was a professor before. Literature. She's sharp. She'll test you. Ruth nods. My grandmother tested me for 22 years. I'm used to it. Mrs. Park looks at her, really looks. For a moment, something flickers across her face. Something like recognition, or maybe hope. Then it's gone. Good luck. She opens the door. The room is bright. A hospital bed disguised as a regular one. Medical equipment tucked into corners and hidden behind decorative screens. A bookshelf covering one entire wall. Hundreds of books. Korean, English, some with spines so cracked they've clearly been read dozens of times. And in the center of the room, facing the window, a wheelchair. Ruth takes a breath, steps inside. The woman in the wheelchair is small, thin, white hair cropped short in a way that might have been stylish once, but now looks like it hasn't been properly maintained in months. Sharp dark eyes behind round glasses that sit crooked on her nose. A face that was once commanding. You can see it in the bone structure, in the set of her jaw, but now that face looks compressed, like a voice that's been told to whisper for 3 years and has forgotten how to shout. Kang Yoonji, 71 years old, former professor of Korean literature at Yonsei University, published author, public intellectual, a woman who once commanded lecture halls of 300 students, now commanding nothing but this room, and barely even that. You're Nigerian. The voice is stronger than Ruth expected, rougher, like it hasn't been used for conversation in a long time. Yes, ma'am. Which state? Lagos. Before that, Abiriba. Imo State. Igbo. Yes, ma'am. Silence. Yoonji's eyes move over Ruth's face, assessing, cataloging. Ruth has seen this look before, on professors during oral exams, on employers during interviews, on her grandmother during every single day of her childhood. I read Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. Ruth feels something shift in the room. This isn't small talk. This is a test. Did you like it? A pause. Ruth considers her answer. She could say what everyone says. It's a masterpiece. It changed African literature. It gave voice to a continent. But Ruth has never been good at saying what everyone says. I think Okonkwo was a fool, but a brave one. Yoonji's eyebrow rises. The first movement Ruth has seen from her face. The first sign that there's someone alive behind those tired eyes. Most people say it's a masterpiece and leave it there. Most people haven't met foolish, brave men. I grew up surrounded by them. Something happens on Yoonji's face. Not a smile. Not quite. But the room for a smile. The possibility of one, you'll do. And just like that, Ruth has a job. She starts that afternoon. Here's what you need to understand about Ruth Okonkwo. She didn't take this job because she needed money. She took this job because she made a promise. Her grandmother's name was Adaze. She had polio, contracted it before the vaccines were widely available, lost the use of her legs at 15, spent the rest of her life in a wheelchair. Ruth has been lifting women who can't walk since she was 6 years old, bathing them, dressing them, feeding them, braiding their hair, pushing their wheelchairs to church every Sunday morning, holding their hands during the hard nights when the pain was too much and the world felt too small. Her grandmother died when Ruth was 22. Cancer, 3 months from diagnosis to death. Ruth was with her for every single day of those 3 months, holding her hand, braiding her hair, pushing her wheelchair to the window so she could see the garden she'd planted 40 years earlier. Last words, whispered, barely audible. You have strong hands. Use them to hold people up. That's why Ruth is here. Not for the money, not for the visa, not for the marble floors or the chandelier that probably has a name. She's here because she knows what it means to care for someone the world has stopped seeing. And she promised her grandmother she would keep doing it, wherever she went, whatever it cost. She had no idea those words would one day cost her everything she'd built, and save someone who had given up on being saved. Within a week, Ruth and Yoonji find their rhythm. Korean poetry in the morning. Yoonji reads aloud. Her voice changes when she reads, becomes fuller, stronger. The professor's voice emerging from somewhere deep inside her that hasn't been accessed in years. Ruth doesn't understand every word, but she understands the music of it, the rise and fall, the emotion carried in syllables. Adichie in the afternoon. Ruth reads. Yoonji argues. With every sentence, every paragraph, every idea. She writes like she's fighting with the reader. That's because she is. What is she fighting about? Who gets to tell the story? Who gets to decide what matters? Who gets to define what's true? Yoonji opens her eyes, looks at Ruth, not employer to employee, reader to reader. Two women who have spent their lives thinking about words and what they mean. They fight about literature the way two women fight who have been waiting their whole lives for someone worth arguing with. The hair braiding starts in week 2. Ruth is combing Yoonji's hair. It's thin, white, tangled in ways that suggest no one has properly cared for it in months, maybe longer. I could braid this. Small braids, close to the scalp. My grandmother said braids made her feel like a queen. Yoonji's voice is flat. I'm 71. My grandmother was 83. Silence. Long. Ruth keeps combing. Gentle. Patient. Her fingers working through tangles that have been ignored for too long. Do it. Ruth braids. Small cornrows. An intricate pattern she learned from her aunt when she was 9. It takes an hour, maybe longer. Her fingers moving with the muscle memory of 1,000 braids before this one. When she's done, she holds up a mirror. Yoonji touches the braids like she's reading Braille, her fingers tracing the patterns, the ridges, the careful architecture of Ruth's work. I look like a queen. I was going to say ridiculous. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Yoonji laughs. Full, real. The sound fills the room like something that's been locked in a closet for 3 years and finally broke the door down. Ruth feels her chest tighten, not from sadness, from recognition. She knows that laugh. She heard it from her grandmother, the laugh of a woman who forgot she was allowed to laugh, who forgot there was anything left worth laughing about. Out in the hallway, footsteps, someone listening, someone walking away. Ruth files it away, keeps braiding. The jollof rice starts the following Tuesday. Ruth cooks in the penthouse kitchen after Chef Kim leaves for the day. Onions, tomatoes, peppers, Scotch bonnets that she found at an African grocery store an hour away by subway. The smell fills the kitchen, fills the corridor, fills the entire east wing. She brings a bowl to Yoonji. What is this? Jollof rice. It's orange. It's supposed to be. It smells like it's arguing with me. In Nigeria, polite food is bad food. Yoonji takes a bite, then another, then another. Her eyes close. Her face changes. Ruth watches a 71-year-old Korean woman eat Nigerian food like she's been starving for years, which, in a way, she has been. The bowl is empty in 10 minutes. First full meal Yoonji has eaten in months. Tuesdays, the word comes out like a command, like a professor assigning homework. Excuse me, Tuesdays. Every Tuesday. This, whatever you call it, jollof rice. Yes, that, Tuesdays. And so, Tuesdays become Jollof Rice Day. And in the small space between a Nigerian woman cooking and a Korean professor eating, something is being built that has nothing to do with food. Now, if you're already invested in Ruth and Yoonji, if you're already feeling something building in your chest, I need you to pay attention to what comes next. Because everything changes. And it starts with a woman who arrives every day at 11:30 with flowers and a smile that never quite reaches her eyes. Yoon Sera arrives at the penthouse every day at exactly 11:30 in the morning. She's stunning, the kind of stunning that takes money and time and professional help. Perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect outfit that looks casual but costs more than Ruth makes in 3 months. She runs a lifestyle brand, Soul It Girl, hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of likes, a feed full of carefully curated moments that suggest a life of effortless perfection. She brings flowers, always lilies, always white. She smiles. She poses. She takes photos with Yoonji, adjusts the blanket on Yoonji's lap, holds Yoonji's hand, kisses Yoonji's cheek. My beautiful mother-in-law, my inspiration, so grateful for every moment with this incredible woman. The posts get thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, heart emojis and crying emojis, and comments about how beautiful their relationship is. How lucky June is to have a fiancé who loves his mother so much. Ruth watches. Something is wrong. She can't name it at first, can't point to a specific thing. It's more like a feeling, a vibration in the air that doesn't match the picture being presented. Real warmth is messy. Ruth knows this. She's felt it, given it, received it. Real warmth stumbles over itself, laughs at the wrong time, says the wrong thing, and then laughs about saying the wrong thing. Real warmth forgets to pose for the camera because it's too busy actually connecting. Sarah's warmth is choreographed, every gesture landing exactly where it's supposed to, every smile held for exactly the right amount of time, every touch placed precisely where the camera can capture it. Ruth's grandmother used to say something about this. When someone is too careful with their kindness, they're hiding the opposite. Day 9. Ruth comes back to Yoonji's room with afternoon tea. The door is slightly open. She's about to push it open when she hears Sarah's voice. Low, a whisper, but clear enough. You know he'll put you in a home eventually. Ruth freezes, her hand on the door, her body perfectly still. When the wedding is done, I'll suggest it. A nice facility, clean, professional care. You'll have your books, but you won't have the view. You won't have the garden. You won't have your son visiting because I'll explain to him that the facility has better care, and he'll believe me. He always believes me. Ruth's blood turns cold. Yoonji's voice, small, smaller than Ruth has ever heard it. The professor's voice completely gone. Please don't. Then don't make me. Silence. Ruth can hear her own heartbeat in her ears. When the new doctor comes, you'll tell him you've been confused, forgetting things, having trouble with words. Do you understand? You'll tell him exactly what I tell you to tell him. And if you don't... Another pause. Ruth imagines Sarah leaning closer, her perfect face inches from Yoonji's. I've been so patient with you, so kind. Don't make me be something else. Yoonji's voice, barely a whisper. Yes. Ruth stands in the hallway, tea tray in her hands, fingers white around the handles. Her jaw so tight she can feel her teeth grinding. She takes a breath, composes her face, pushes the door open with a normal smile. Good afternoon. I brought tea. Sarah straightens up immediately. The transformation is instant. The smile returns. The warmth reactivates. The performance resumes. Oh, Ruth, thank you so much. I was just telling mother-in-law how much I love spending time with her. Ruth sets the tea down, pours a cup, hands it to Yoonji. Their eyes meet, just for a second, just long enough for Ruth to see the fear, the resignation, the look of a woman who has been trapped for so long she's forgotten what freedom feels like. Ruth says nothing, but from this moment forward, she watches. If you're already feeling your blood pressure rise, I want you to drop a comment right now. Tell me, have you ever seen someone hide cruelty behind a perfect smile? Have you ever watched someone perform kindness while doing the exact opposite when no one's looking? Because what Ruth discovers next is going to make your skin crawl. Day 12. Ruth is helping Yoonji change clothes. A simple task, one she's done thousands of times, for her grandmother, for Yoonji, for every woman she's ever cared for. She lifts Yoonji's arm to slide the sleeve of a fresh blouse over it, and she sees it. A bruise on the inside of Yoonji's upper arm, purple, the shape of 3 fingertips. Ruth has been doing this work for over 20 years. She knows bruises. She knows the difference between a bump against a wheelchair arm and a grab from a human hand. Wheelchair arms don't leave fingerprints. Yoonji sees Ruth looking, pulls her arm away. I'm clumsy. Ruth says nothing for a moment, just looks at Yoonji's face, at the way her eyes won't meet Ruth's, at the way her jaw is tight with something that might be shame. I bathe my grandmother every day for 16 years. I know the difference between a bump and a grab. The room goes silent. Yoonji's hand trembles slightly. The gate that was starting to open slams shut. It's nothing. She looks away. The conversation is over, but Ruth doesn't forget. Day 14. Ruth comes to Yoonji's room after her laundry shift. The door is open. She walks in and stops. The wheelchair is facing the wall. Yoonji is sitting in it, silent, staring at white paint from 6 inches away. Her hands are in her lap. Her head is slightly bowed, like a child being punished, like a prisoner in solitary confinement. She can't turn the chair herself. Ruth knows this. Yoonji's arms aren't strong enough for the weight of the wheelchair. She needs help to move, to turn, to face a different direction. How long have you been like this? Yoonji's voice is flat, emotionless, the voice of someone who has been staring at a wall so long they've forgotten there's anything else. I don't know. What time is it? 4 o'clock. Since 11, Ruth does the math. 5 hours. A 71-year-old woman has been facing a wall for 5 hours because someone turned her chair to face the wall and walked away. Who did this? Silence. Madame Kang, who turned your chair? She said I needed to rest, that the light was bothering my eyes. Was it? A long pause. The longest pause Ruth has ever heard. No. Ruth grips the handles of the wheelchair, her knuckles white, her jaw so tight it aches. She turns the chair back to the window, slowly, carefully, like she's handling something precious, something breakable. The afternoon light hits Yoonji's face. She blinks, once, twice, like someone coming out of a cave, like someone remembering that the world exists. Ruth says nothing, adjusts the blanket on Yoonji's lap, hands her the book from the side table, opens the curtain wider. The Han River is visible, glittering in the afternoon sun. The Seoul skyline stretching out in every direction, a view worth millions. A view that Yoonji was denied for 5 hours because someone decided she needed to stare at a wall instead. Yoonji starts to read. Her hands shake for the first page. By the second, they're steady. By the third, the professor's voice is back, reading aloud, the words filling the room that was silent for 5 hours. Ruth stands by the window, listening, her jaw still tight, her eyes burning with something that might be tears, but feels more like fire. Day 17. Ruth is straightening Yoonji's room, making the bed, arranging the books, the small tasks that make a room feel cared for. She opens the top drawer of the bureau, looking for the hand cream Yoonji likes, the one that smells like lavender. She finds something else. Yoonji's glasses, hidden, tucked beneath scarves and handkerchiefs, deliberately placed where Yoonji couldn't find them, couldn't reach them, couldn't see. Ruth stands there, holding the glasses, her mind putting pieces together. Yoonji has been sitting in silence for 2 days. Ruth thought she was tired, thought she was having a bad week, thought the depression that sometimes comes with paralysis was taking hold. No, she couldn't read. She couldn't see the view. She couldn't see the books on her shelf or the face of the woman caring for her. Without her glasses, Yoonji is just a woman in a blur, a professor without words, a reader without books. Someone took her glasses, hid them, and left her in that blur for 2 days. Ruth knows who. She cleans the lenses with her apron, walks to Yoonji's wheelchair, kneels beside it, places the glasses on Yoonji's face with the same gentleness she used to place her grandmother's reading glasses on after cleaning them with the hem of her dress. Yoonji's eyes focus. The room sharpens. The bookshelf comes into view. The window. The Han River. Ruth's face. Thank you. The words are whispered. Yoonji's hands are shaking. Her eyes are wet. Ruth wants to say something, wants to ask questions, wants to demand answers. But she knows. She knows that pushing too hard will close the gate forever, will make Yoonji retreat into silence, will make her protect the person who's hurting her, because that's what trapped people do. So Ruth says nothing, just squeezes Yoonji's hand, just stays. That night, Ruth lies in her small room at the end of the service corridor. The room is barely bigger than a closet, a single bed, a small desk, a window that looks out at nothing. She stares at the ceiling. She doesn't cry for herself. She cries for the woman down the hall who won't cry for herself, who has forgotten she's allowed to cry, who has been so compressed, so diminished, so carefully controlled that she thinks this is normal, that she thinks she deserves it. Ruth's grandmother used to say that there are 2 kinds of evil in the world, the loud kind that announces itself, and the quiet kind that hides behind smiles and flowers and Instagram posts about love. The quiet kind is worse, because no one believes you when you try to name it. Day 20, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Ruth is in the corridor outside Yoonji's room. She hears a sound, a yelp, short, cut off, the sound of pain being swallowed. She opens the door. Sarah is standing over the wheelchair, her back to Ruth. Yoonji's hand is in her lap, red, swelling. Ruth's eyes move down, to Sarah's foot, to the heel of her designer shoe, to where that heel was, just seconds ago, standing on Yoonji's fingers. Sarah turns, sees Ruth. The transformation is instant. Oh, Ruth, I was just adjusting mother-in-law's blanket. She got a little tangled. Ruth looks at Yoonji's hand, at the marks, at the swelling that doesn't come from blanket adjustments. She says nothing, just nods, just waits for Sarah to leave. That night, Ruth ices Yoonji's hand, wraps the finger that took the worst of the pressure, works in silence, gentle, careful, the way she used to wrap her grandmother's swollen ankles. Why don't you tell him? Yoonji's voice is hollow. She'll put me in a home. Ruth keeps rapping, keeps listening. She's been telling June for months that I'm confused, forgetting things, getting words wrong. She brought a doctor last month, told him I was declining. He believed her. They all believe her. Ruth's hands pause, just for a second. She's building a case, yes, to have me declared incompetent. Once that happens, the family trust. Everything my husband built, it all transfers to June, and June believes everything Sarah tells him. Ruth finishes the wrapping, sets Yoonji's hand gently in her lap, looks at the old woman's face, at the fear there, the resignation, the exhaustion of fighting a battle she's already lost. You're the sharpest person I've ever met. It doesn't matter what I am. It matters what she makes him think I am. She's thought of everything, Ruth. Every angle, every contingency, every way I might fight back. Ruth is silent for a long moment. When she speaks, her voice is quiet, but certain. She's not smarter. She's meaner. Those are different things. Yoonji looks at her. Something flickers in her eyes. Something that might be hope, or might just be the memory of hope. It dies quickly. It doesn't matter. Mean wins. Mean always wins. Ruth doesn't argue, not with words, but in her heart. She makes a decision, a promise, the kind of promise her grandmother taught her to make. This woman will not die alone, will not disappear into a facility, will not be erased by someone with a perfect smile and a rotten heart. Not while Ruth has strong hands. Day 25. Ruth goes to Kang June. She's thought about this for days, rehearsed what she'll say, prepared for every possible response. She knows the risks, knows that accusing the boss's fiancé of elder abuse is the kind of thing that ends careers, ends visas, ends lives. She goes anyway. His office is on the 42nd floor. Glass walls, a desk the size of her entire room. A view of Seoul that makes the one from Yoonji's window look modest. June is on the phone when she enters. He holds up a finger. Wait. She waits. 5 minutes. 10. He finishes the call. Looks at her like he's trying to remember who she is. The maid. Ruth. Yes. Is there a problem with my mother's care? There's a problem with your mother. He leans back. Interested now. Or at least performing interest. Ruth tells him everything. The whispered threats she overheard. The wheelchair turned to face the wall. The hidden glasses. The bruise on Yoonji's arm. The heel standing on Yoonji's fingers. She tells him calmly, clearly, without emotion, the way her grandmother taught her to speak when delivering difficult truth. Let the facts do the feeling. Your job is just to say them. June listens. His face gives nothing away. Years of business, years of politics, years of learning to mask every reaction. When Ruth finishes, he picks up his phone. Sarah, can you come to my office? Sarah arrives within minutes. Ruth wonders if she was nearby, listening, waiting. The performance begins immediately. Tears, instant and perfect, streaming down flawless cheeks. June, what's happening? Why is she here? Has something happened to your mother? Ruth has made some accusations. I wanted you to hear them directly. Sarah's face cycles through emotions. Confusion, hurt, disbelief, each one landing perfectly. Each one exactly what you'd expect from an innocent person being accused of something terrible. What kind of accusations? That you've been hurting my mother, threatening her, hiding her glasses, turning her wheelchair to face the wall. Sarah's hand goes to her chest. Her eyes go wide. The tears flow faster. I don't understand. I love your mother. You've seen the photos. You've seen how much time I spend with her. Why would this woman say these things? She turns to Ruth, her face full of wounded confusion, but her eyes, just for a second, her eyes show something else, something cold, something that says, I told you this would happen. She's new. She doesn't understand our family. Maybe she misunderstood something, a cultural difference. I know Nigerians can be very direct. Maybe she misinterpreted my care as something else. Ruth says nothing, just stands, just waits. June looks at Ruth, then at Sarah, then at Ruth again. Let's ask my mother. They go to Yoonji's room. June first, then Sarah, then Ruth. Yoonji is in her wheelchair by the window, the braids Ruth did last week, still holding, the glasses Ruth found still on her face. She looks up when they enter. Her eyes move from June to Sarah to Ruth. Mother, Ruth says Sarah has been hurting you. Is that true? The room goes silent. Ruth watches Yoonji's face, watches the calculation happening behind her eyes, the fear warring with the truth. Sarah stands behind June. Her face is full of love and concern, but her eyes are locked on Yoonji. And in those eyes, Ruth can read the message as clearly as if it were written on the wall. The home, the facility, alone. Say what I told you to say, or lose everything. Yoonji's hands tremble in her lap. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. No, the maid is mistaken. Sarah has been very kind to me. The words fall into the room like stones. June turns to Ruth. His face is neutral, but his voice has an edge now. My mother has spoken. She's afraid. Can't you see she's afraid? That's enough. He straightens, becomes the CEO, the billionaire, the man who is not questioned by the help. If you continue making unfounded accusations against my fiancé, I'll have to reconsider your position in this household. My mother is clearly satisfied with her care. I suggest you focus on your actual duties. He leaves. Sarah follows, but at the doorway she pauses, looks back at Ruth. The tears are gone. The wounded confusion is gone. What's underneath is cold, flat, the face of a woman who has won and knows it. She leaves. Ruth stands in Yoonji's room, the afternoon light streaming through the windows, the Han River glittering below, a 71-year-old woman staring at her lap. I'm sorry, Ruth. Don't be sorry. Be angry. I'm too tired to be angry. Ruth walks to the wheelchair, sits on the floor beside it, takes Yoonji's hand, the one that still has faint marks from the heel. Then I'll be angry for both of us. Silence, long, comfortable, the kind of silence that exists between people who have stopped pretending. Don't leave me alone with her. The words are whispered, barely audible, but Ruth hears them. I'm not going anywhere. The weeks pass. Ruth stays, braids, reads, cooks, argues, holds. She adjusts her schedule, finds reasons to be near Yoonji's room during Sarah's visits, creates tasks that keep her within earshot, within sight, within reach. Sarah notices, but she can't complain, can't draw attention. The maid is just being thorough, just being dedicated, just doing her job. June notices too, but not the way Ruth wants him to notice. He walks past his mother's room one afternoon. The door is open. He hears something he hasn't heard in years. Laughter. He stops, looks in. Ruth is braiding Yoonji's hair, both of them arguing about something. Adichie versus Shin Kyung. Suk, who is braver, who takes more risks, who deserves to win an argument that has no winner. His mother is winning. She looks alive. Her eyes are bright. Her voice is strong. The professor's voice, the voice he remembers from childhood, from before the accident, from before everything collapsed. He watches for 2 minutes, maybe 3, then walks away. But something has shifted, something small, a crack in the wall he's built between himself and his mother, a question he doesn't want to ask because he's afraid of the answer. That evening, the kitchen. Ruth is cleaning up after Jollof Rice Tuesday. June walks in, still in his suit, tie still loosened. My mother laughed today. She laughs every day. She didn't used to. Then she wasn't given enough reasons. He leans against the counter, watching her, trying to figure something out. What changed? Ruth turns, looks at him directly, the way she looks at everyone, the way her grandmother taught her to look at people, straight on, no flinching. I braided her hair, I read her books, I made her jollof rice, I argued with her about poetry, I treated her like a human being instead of a patient in a wheelchair. He says nothing. You treat her like a duty. How are you, mother? Fine. That's not a conversation. That's an attendance record. Nobody talks to Kang Jun like this. CEOs don't. Board members don't. His fiancée doesn't. His maid just did. She needs someone who sits with her, who lets her win the arguments sometimes. She was a professor. She shaped minds. And she's been sitting in that wheelchair for 3 years with no one who treats her like she's still that woman. The silence stretches. Ruth goes back to cleaning. She's said what she needed to say. What he does with it is up to him. But that night, June goes to his mother's room, sits beside her wheelchair, not for 10 minutes, for an hour. They talk about books, about literature, about things they haven't talked about in years. Yoonji cries. Quietly. He pretends not to notice. It's a beginning, but Sarah notices too, and what she sees is dangerous. A strong Yoonji is a speaking Yoonji, a Yoonji who might tell the truth, a Yoonji who might break free of the careful prison Sarah has built. Sarah escalates. She fires the physiotherapist who has been gentle with Yoonji, replaces him with one who reports everything to her. She adjusts schedules to limit Ruth's shifts, squeezes the bond wherever she can. The war has begun. And Ruth is fighting it with hair braids and jollof rice and the stubborn refusal to leave an old woman alone in the dark. Month 4, Thursday, 4:07 in the afternoon. Yoonji finds the professor's voice. I will tell my son what you are. The words are clear, strong, the voice of a woman who has been silent for too long and has finally remembered how to speak. Sarah stands in the middle of Yoonji's room. Her face is calm, too calm. He sat with me last week. Yoonji continues. He listened. He's seeing me again, and when he sees me clearly, he'll see you clearly. Sarah's voice is cold, flat, no performance now, no Instagram smile, no. He won't. The sound is sharp, skin on skin, an open hand, hitting a 71-year-old woman's face hard enough to turn her head, hard enough to knock her glasses across the room, hard enough to leave a mark that won't fade for hours. Ruth opens the door. She doesn't knock, doesn't hesitate. She heard the sound from the corridor, the sound she's been dreading, the sound she knew was coming. Frame 1. Sarah standing over the wheelchair, hand still raised, face showing nothing, the blankness of a woman performing a task. Frame 2. Yoonji in the wheelchair, head turned from the impact, left cheek red, glasses on the marble floor, the left lens cracked, eyes open, defiant, even now, even after everything. Frame 3. The glasses on the floor, the things Yoonji needs to read, to see, to be herself. Cracked, discarded, like the woman who wears them. Ruth looks at the handprint forming on Yoonji's cheek, looks at the glasses on the floor, looks at Sarah's blank face, at the absence of remorse, at the complete indifference of a woman who has just struck someone old enough to be her grandmother. Something detonates inside Ruth's chest. Not anger, not exactly, not bravery. Something older, deeper, something that was placed inside her 20 years ago, when her grandmother's neighbors whispered that a woman in a wheelchair was a punishment from God, when they said she should be hidden, forgotten, when they said she was a burden on a family that should be ashamed. Ruth stood on those front steps when she was 8 years old and shouted them down until her voice cracked, until they turned and walked away, until they learned that the girl with the strong hands would not let anyone diminish the woman she loved. You have strong hands. Use them to hold people up. 3 steps. Her right hand, open palm, not a fist. A correction, the way women hit in an Abiriba market when someone disrespects their mother, the way justice is delivered when the law is too slow, when the powerful are too protected, when no one else will act. Her palm connects with Sarah's face. The sound fills the room. Sharp, final, unmistakable. Sarah falls sideways. Her hip hits the arm of the sofa. She slides down, lands on the marble floor. Her hair fans out. Her designer dress crumples beneath her. Her hand goes to her cheek. Her eyes go wide. Ruth stands between the wheelchair and the woman on the floor. Her palm stings. Her heart hammers. Her career is over. Her visa is over. Her future in this country is over. She doesn't care. Don't touch her again. 5 words, said quietly, said with absolute certainty, said by a woman who has just burned down everything she's built because she couldn't watch injustice happen one more time. Behind her, Yoonji is silent, staring at Ruth's back, at this woman in a maid's uniform who just crossed a room and struck the monster who has been tormenting her for 3 years. On her face is an expression Ruth has never seen from anyone. Someone fought for me. If that moment just gave you chills, smash that like button right now, because what happens next is going to test everything you think you know about justice, about truth, about what it takes to win when the powerful have all the cards. Don't go anywhere. 30 seconds pass. Sarah is still on the floor, but she's calculating now, even with her cheeks stinging, even with her dignity in pieces. The wheels are turning. The plan is forming. The tears come, right on schedule, perfect, glistening, the tears of a victim, of an innocent woman attacked without provocation. The door opens. Kang Jun walks in. He's still in his suit, still carrying the weight of a day full of meetings and decisions. He was coming to see his mother, to continue what they started last week, to be the son he should have been for 3 years. He stops, takes in the scene. Fiancée on the floor, crying, hand pressed to her cheek, hair disheveled, dress crumpled. Maid standing in the center of the room, still as a statue, face unreadable. Mother in wheelchair, handprint visible on her face, glasses on the floor, lens cracked. 3 people, 3 stories, 1 truth. Sarah speaks first, always first. That's her power, the power to control the narrative, to establish the reality before anyone else can speak. She hit me. Her voice is shaking, tears streaming. The perfect victim, out of nowhere. I was visiting your mother. I was adjusting her blanket, and this woman just attacked me. I don't know why. I don't understand. June looks at Ruth. Ruth says nothing, stands, waits. She doesn't defend herself, doesn't explain, doesn't try to compete with Sarah's performance. She knows how this looks, knows what it will cost her, has made peace with it. June turns to his mother. Mother, what happened? Yoonji's eyes move, from June standing in the doorway, to Sarah still on the floor, to the space between them where Ruth is planted like a wall, a shield, a declaration. Sarah's eyes find Yoonji's, and in those eyes, Yoonji can read everything. The threat that's been there for 3 years, the promise of isolation, of erasure, of dying alone in a facility that Sarah will choose, that June will never visit, because Sarah will explain why he shouldn't. Say what I told you, or lose everything. Yoonji has been here before, dozens of times, hundreds. The moment when she could speak and doesn't, when she could fight and surrenders, when she swallows the truth because the consequences of telling it are too enormous. But something is different today. Today, a woman in a maid's uniform crossed a room and hit the person who hurt her, not for money, not for power, not for any gain, simply because she saw injustice and couldn't stand still. Someone fought for me. Yoonji has spent 3 years wondering if anyone would, if anyone could, if anyone cared enough to risk something, to lose something, to stand between her and the darkness closing in. And now she knows. The gate opens. She slapped me. 2 words, whispered, but clear enough. June goes still. What? Sarah slapped me. Today, and before today, the whisper becomes a voice. The voice becomes the professor. 3 years of silence breaking like a dam. She pinches my arms. She stands on my fingers with her heels. She takes my glasses and hides them so I can't read. She turns my wheelchair to face the wall and leaves me there for hours. She whispers threats when we're alone. She tells me she'll put me in a home. She tells me you'll forget me, that she'll make sure you forget me. June's face is changing, the mask slipping, something underneath that might be horror, or might be the beginning of understanding. She brought a doctor, told him I was confused, forgetting things, getting worse. She's building a case to have me declared mentally incompetent. Sarah's tears have stopped. The performance is cracking. This isn't supposed to happen. Yoonji doesn't speak. In 3 years, she's never spoken. Mother, you're confused, Sarah says, her voice harder now. The mask slipping. You don't know what you're saying. Yoonji looks at her, and in that look is every ounce of the professor she used to be. The woman who commanded lecture halls, who wrote books, who shaped minds for 30 years. I just described a 3-year campaign in precise chronological detail. That is not confusion. That is testimony. She turns to June. The family trust. Your father structured it so that control transfers to you if I die, or if I'm declared incompetent. She doesn't want me dead. Dead is too obvious. She wants me erased. On paper, legally silenced, unable to speak, unable to challenge, unable to stop whatever she has planned. The room is silent. June looks at Sarah, really looks, maybe for the first time. And Sarah, for the first time in 3 years, has no words, no performance, no prepared response, because she never planned for this, never imagined Yoonji would speak, never built a contingency for a 71-year-old woman finally finding her voice. Get out. June's voice is quiet, but absolute. You're choosing a maid over me. Sarah's voice is rising, panicked now. After everything I've done for this family, for your mother, I'm choosing my mother. He steps toward her. She steps back. I should have chosen her 3 years ago. I should have listened. I should have seen. I didn't. That's my failure. But I'm seeing now. He points to the door. Get out of my house. Don't come back. Don't contact me. Don't contact my mother. And don't think for 1 second that this is over. Sarah's mask falls completely. What's underneath is cold, calculating, furious. You'll regret this. Probably. But not as much as you will. She leaves, heels clicking on marble, the sound getting quieter. Elevator doors. Gone, but not finished. Sarah calls the police at 6:14 that evening. The report is simple, straightforward, technically accurate. My fiancé's domestic worker assaulted me. I want to press charges. Ruth did hit her. That's not a question. That's a fact. The law doesn't ask why, doesn't care about context, doesn't factor in 3 years of abuse against an elderly woman. The law just asks, did physical contact occur without consent? Yes, it did. Ruth is questioned that night. 2 officers, a small room, fluorescent lights, questions in English from someone who learned it from textbooks. Did you hit Yun, Sarah? Yes. Why? She was hurting Madame Kang. How was she hurting her? She slapped her face. Did you see this? Yes. And you hit her in response? Yes. You understand? This is assault. I understand. The officers look at each other. This isn't the response they expected. No denial. No excuses. No tears. Just truth. Her visa is flagged. Immigration is notified. The wheels of bureaucracy begin to turn. The wheels that will eventually push her out of this country. Back to Nigeria. Back to nothing. Sarah leaks the story. Through a friend. Through a gossip account. Through the whisper network of Soul Society. Billionaire's violent African maid attacks fiancé. The comments are immediate. Vicious. Deport her. Who does she think she is? Animals from those countries. Typical behavior. Ruth reads them in her small room. The room at the end of the service corridor. The room barely bigger than a closet. Her hands don't shake. Her grandmother heard worse. From neighbors who thought a woman in a wheelchair was a punishment from God. From relatives who suggested she be sent away. From strangers who stared, who whispered, who made assumptions about what a woman in a wheelchair deserved. Ruth learned early that words from cowards mean nothing. That the truth exists whether people acknowledge it or not. That dignity isn't given by others. It's held within yourself. There's a knock at her door. She opens it. June is standing there, looking smaller than she's ever seen him, carrying something in his hands that might be shame. I've hired a lawyer. Why? Because you did what I should have done. Ruth says nothing, just looks at him. I hit your fiancé. You hit the woman torturing my mother. Korean courts might disagree. Korean courts will see the evidence. What evidence? I had cameras installed after the renovation 3 years ago. Every room, private server. Sarah didn't know about them. Ruth stares at him. 4 months of footage, 4 months of evidence, 4 months of watching her fight alone while he sat in his office making decisions that didn't involve his own family. Why didn't you check? When I told you the first time, why didn't you look? He doesn't answer, because the answer is simple and damning. He didn't want to see. It was easier to believe the story Sarah told, the story where she was the devoted fiancée, where his mother was declining, where the maid was lying or confused or culturally mistaken. It was easier to not look, to not know, to not have to act. I'm looking now, the quietest thing this loud man has ever said. He watches the footage that night, alone in his office. 6 hours, the screen glowing in the dark room, a bottle of whiskey open but untouched. He sees everything. Sarah hiding the glasses, methodical, opening the bureau drawer, placing them inside, closing it, walking out, leaving a 71-year-old woman in a blur. Sarah turning the wheelchair to face the wall, Yoonji's hands gripping the armrests, trying to turn herself, too weak, giving up, sitting for hours, facing white paint, while the Han River shines through the window behind her. Sarah standing on Yoonji's fingers, the yelp cut short, the smile on Sarah's face, not cruelty, something worse, boredom. She's bored by the old woman's pain. It's routine. It's Tuesday. The whispered threats, audio clear enough to hear every word. He'll put you in a home. You'll die alone. He'll believe me. He watches his mother's face absorb each word, watches the professor shrink, watches the compression happen in real time. A woman being made smaller, visit by visit, whisper by whisper. And then he sees Ruth braiding hair, her fingers gentle and patient, the same braids every week, and Yoonji's face changing from compressed to alive as the cornrows take shape. Ruth, finding the hidden glasses, cleaning them with her apron, kneeling beside the wheelchair, placing them on Yoonji's face. Ruth turning the wheelchair from the wall back to the window, and the light hitting Yoonji's face, and the old woman blinking like coming out of a cave. Ruth cooking jollof rice, the steam rising. Yoonji eating the whole bowl. Ruth holding Yoonji's swollen hand, wrapping it, gentle, careful. Ruth sitting beside the wheelchair at night, not speaking, just being there. 2 women in the same room, one destroying, one rebuilding. He watches the footage from the final day last. 3 times. Sarah's slap, glasses flying. Ruth entering, the 3 steps across the room, the open palm. Don't touch her again. On the 3rd viewing, he sees something he missed. After the hit, after Sarah falls, Ruth's hand is shaking. Her whole body is shaking. She's terrified, but she doesn't step away from the wheelchair. She plants herself between Yoonji and the woman on the floor, and she doesn't move. June closes the footage, opens the trust documents. The Kang Family Trust, 51% of Kang Industries, held by Yoonji, transferring to June upon her death or legal declaration of incompetence. He pulls Sarah's medical requests, the psychiatric assessment, pre-filled competency forms, a letter to a residential facility, drafted, addressed, waiting for a signature. Everything she said, everything Ruth said, everything his mother finally found the courage to say. All of it documented, all of it planned, all of it real. But there's more. His head of legal finds it 3 days later. Something no one was looking for. Something buried in files from 3 years ago. A preliminary trust transfer, initiated 2 weeks before the car accident, through Yun and Associates, Sarah's family firm. It was withdrawn 10 days after the accident. June stares at the document, his mind working, calculating, understanding. 2 weeks before the accident, someone from Sarah's family filed paperwork to seize the trust. Then the accident happened. His stepfather died. Yoonji was paralyzed. The filing was withdrawn because the situation changed, because Yoonji was now controllable without a court order. June calls his investigator at 3:47 in the morning. The car accident. My stepfather. Full incident report. Vehicle maintenance records. Everything. That case was closed. Open it. The report comes back 2 days later. The brake inspection, scheduled for the morning of the accident, was canceled. by a phone call from a number registered to Yoon and Associates. The breaks, the filing, the phone call, the timing. June sits with this for a full day. Doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, doesn't speak. His stepfather, the man who married his mother when June was 12, the man who taught him to fish, who fixed things around the house, who made terrible jokes at dinner, who loved Yoonji with a devotion that June only understood after he was gone. That man died because someone canceled a brake inspection so that his wife would be paralyzed, so that she could be controlled, so that a fortune could be seized. He tells Ruth, "Your mother doesn't know." No, she's blamed herself for 3 years. She told me once. She said she told him they were running late, that he didn't call the mechanic because of her, because she made them rush. Ruth goes still. She needs to hear this from you, not from a lawyer, not from a document. From her son, they tell her together. The east wing, the window facing the Han River, the afternoon light streaming in. Yoonji listens, her professor's face processing, cataloging, absorbing, the breaks, the filing, the phone call, your stepfather's death, the accident. It was arranged. Someone from Sarah's firm canceled the brake inspection. 2 weeks after they filed preliminary trust documents, Yoonji is silent. For a long time, her hands still in her lap. He said they felt wrong that morning. The brakes. He almost called the mechanic. Her voice is barely a whisper now. I told him we were running late. I told him we didn't have time to wait. It wasn't your fault. 3 years. I've carried that for 3 years. It wasn't your fault, Mother. She doesn't cry. Goes very still, like the air before a storm, like the moment before something breaks. Then the professor's voice returns. Clear, absolute, unbroken. I want her to know that I know. I want the world to know. All of it. The press conference is held 1 week later. Yoonji insists on being there, in her wheelchair, in her braids, the ones Ruth did fresh that morning, wearing new glasses, identical to the ones Sarah broke. Ruth found them within a day. The Kang Industries press room, cameras, reporters, the full circus. They think they're covering Billionaire addresses Maid scandal. They think it's a story about damage control, about an assault, about a rich family trying to manage a PR crisis. They have no idea. June speaks first. 3 days ago, my domestic worker struck my fiancée. The media reported it as unprovoked assault. I'm here to show you what actually happened. The screens behind him activate. 4 months of footage, edited into a 12-minute reel. The reporters watch. The room goes silent. Sarah, hiding glasses, the image clear, her face visible, her actions deliberate. Sarah turning the wheelchair. Yoonji trying to turn it back. Too weak, giving up. Sarah standing on fingers. The yelp audible. The smile on Sarah's face visible. The gasp that moves through the room is audible. The whispered threats, subtitled, on screen. Every word. He'll put you in a home. You'll die alone. He'll believe me. The psychiatric assessment, the competency forms, the letter to the facility, all displayed, all documented, all damning. Then the other footage. Ruth, braiding hair, making jollof rice, finding glasses, turning the wheelchair back, holding hands in the dark, and finally, Sarah's slap, glasses flying. Ruth, crossing the room, the open palm, don't touch her again. The room explodes. Cameras flash. Reporters shout questions. June raises his hand. There's more. The trust documents appear. The filing from 3 years ago. The phone call canceling the brake inspection. The connection to Yoon and Associates. The car accident that killed my stepfather and paralyzed my mother is being reinvestigated as a potential homicide. The woman who assaulted my mother for 3 years, who built a case to have her declared incompetent, whose family firm filed trust documents 2 weeks before a fatal car accident. That woman is Yoon Sarah. Yoonji wheels forward, center stage, braids, glasses, back straight. The professor in her wheelchair, unsilenced. My name is Kang Yoonji. I taught Korean literature at Fiancée University for 30 years. I am not confused. I am not declining. I am not losing my mind. I am a woman in a wheelchair who was told to be silent or lose everything. Today, I choose to speak. She looks at Ruth, standing at the side of the room. Gray dress, white apron, eyes wet, but face composed. Because a woman from Nigeria, a maid in my son's house, chose to fight for me when I couldn't fight for myself. Ruth Okonkwo hit my abuser, and I wish I'd had the legs to stand up and do it myself. The aftermath is swift. Sarah is investigated. Elder abuse, fraud, potential manslaughter. Her brand collapses. Her social media goes dark. The comments that once called for Ruth's deportation flip completely. Protect Ruth. That maid is a hero. We need more people like her. Ruth's charges are dropped the same afternoon as the press conference. Immigration flags removed. Visa restored. 3 weeks later. The penthouse. Morning. Ruth braids Yunji's hair. Same pattern. Same hands. The reading lamp is on. The window faces the Han River. The wheelchair is in the light, never facing the wall again. You're staying, not a question. A statement. Yunji's professor voice. I'm staying, not as a maid. I'm not sure what else I am. You're my companion, my reader, my hair braider, my jollof rice chef, my friend. If that's not too sentimental for a woman from Abiriba, we're extremely sentimental. We just hide it behind insults. June offered Ruth a formal position. Full-time caregiver, proper salary, visa sponsorship, benefits, everything official and legal and above board. She accepted on one condition. I answer to your mother, not to you. That seems to be how everything works in this house now. Smart man, slow learner, but smart. Tuesday evening. The kitchen. Ruth is making jollof rice. The smell fills the corridor. Chef Kim has surrendered the kitchen every Tuesday without protest. A treaty signed in silence. June walks in, sits at the counter, watches her cook. You changed everything in this house. I made rice and braided hair. Your mother did the rest. You hit my fiancé, ex-fiancé. He almost smiles. You hit my ex-fiancé. For my mother. You almost got deported. You didn't hesitate. I hesitated for 4 months. That's long enough. Silence. He watches her stir the pot. The Scotch bonnet's bubbling. The smell sharp and alive. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Feel something for someone who works in my house without it being wrong. I don't work in your house. I work for your mother. There's a difference. Is there? Your mother thinks so. She told me last week. My son looks at you like he's solving a problem he hopes he never solves. She said that. She's a professor. She notices everything. He reaches across the counter. Not for her hand, for the spoon. Takes a bite of jollof rice directly from the pot. Ruth stares at him. You did not just eat from the pot. I'm learning differently now. That's not how learning works. Then teach me. She looks at him. He looks at her. The counter between them. The same kitchen where she told him he treats his mother like a duty. Where he first heard his mother laugh from down the hallway. The same marble counter. But the distance is different now. Smaller. By choice. Tuesday. What about Tuesday? Come back Tuesday. Sit with your mother for an hour. First. Then come here. I'll make extra. Is that a date? It's jollof rice. Don't ruin it. From down the corridor. Clear. Strong. The voice of a professor who hears everything. I can hear you both. And yes, it's a date. Ruth laughs. June almost smiles. The sound of an old woman's voice carrying through a penthouse is the sound of a house becoming a home. The east corridor. Morning. Yoonji's room. Door open. Reading lamp on. Bookshelf full. Window facing the Han River. The garden below, coming into spring bloom. Yoonji in her wheelchair. Glasses on. Book in her lap. Braids in her hair. Reading aloud. Korean poetry. The professor's voice. Full. Commanding. Unsilenced. Ruth beside her. Listening. Not because she understands every word. Because the sound of this woman's voice, strong, unafraid, is the only evidence she needs that what she did was right. On the windowsill, 2 framed photos. Yoonji and her late husband, young, smiling, before wheelchairs, before accidents, before grief, and beside it, a new photo, Ruth and Yoonji, taken by June, neither woman looking at the camera, both mid-argument, both laughing, both alive. She came to Seoul with one suitcase and a work visa. She took a job because she knew how to care for a woman in a wheelchair. She braided hair. She made jollof rice on Tuesdays. She argued about books with a professor who hadn't argued in 3 years. And when she saw a handprint on that professor's face, she crossed a room and used her strong hands the way her grandmother taught her, not to hit, to hold someone up. Some people wait their whole lives for permission to do the right thing. Permission from bosses, from systems, from the people who might be hurt by the truth. Ruth didn't wait. She saw broken glasses on a marble floor, and she moved. 5 words, an open palm, a maid's uniform, and a 71-year-old woman in a wheelchair who hadn't laughed in 3 years, laughing every Tuesday because someone finally made her jollof rice. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone who fought for you, or someone you wish you'd fought for, share it. Someone needs to hear this today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now, because this channel, we tell stories that matter. Stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Stories about love that shows up, about courage that costs something, about hands that hold people up. Stay dangerous. Stay loved.